Welcome to the Women in Wellness podcast. This is your place to get the latest up-to-date health and wellness information specifically for women, while providing you practical tools you can implement today. I'm Dr. Caitlin Zazowski, and I wanted to personally thank you for spending part of your day with me. Hello, Women in Wellness Tribe. It is Dr. Caitlin, and I'm very excited and looking forward to this conversation that I'm going to be having over the next 30-45 minutes, because this man talks to my geekiness at a whole new level. He completely understands and appreciates the understanding and the need for looking at and looking into why we're dealing with certain symptoms, whether it be weight loss resistance or problem sleeping or mood swings or thyroid issues, to really find out what is going on. So with me today, I have Reed Davis, who is the founder of FDN. And honestly, if I could go back 15 years, I'd probably take my education a different route had I have known about this program, because there's some really amazing individuals that come out of there. One of my near and dear friends, Ben Azadi, is a graduate of the FDN. And so we're going to talk all things women related in relation to looking for the root cause of our symptoms. So thank you so much for being with me today. I'm so excited and thrilled to have this conversation with you.
That's a real pleasure to be here, Caitlin. I hope we can help some folks.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm absolutely sure. So why don't you share like a real brief synopsis as to how you became the founder of FDN? How did you get involved in that? Because you shared with me your initial passion was helping these women who were struggling and getting nowhere with traditional healthcare. We'll say that.
Sure. Well, in 2008, I started teaching a course in functional lab work, laboratory work that looks at the healing opportunities, the underlying causes, and then applying the general principles of health building, the lifestyle medicine, basically. So I started that in 2008. But that was after spending 10 years in the clinic, working on thousands and thousands of people. What I'm best known for is having run thousands of labs, more than any 5 other doctors who do this kind of work. I was just like you said, geeking out. Well, I started geeking out in 1998 when I switched from being in environmental law business. I was saving the planet, air, birds, water, trees, bees, I noticed they're all being destroyed by the environment. I started wondering, well, what about people? And what about me? So I've always wanted to be in control of my own health and happiness and things like that, my own destiny, if you will. And I went to work in this clinic. I'm going to sort of work in this area now of people instead of birds and trees. And so I was amazed at the opportunities and what was going on with medicine. I had never had a health challenge or problem, so I didn't really know how quote unquote bad the medical system was or how unserving it could be. And so I took a nutrition course. I actually was invited by this doctor while she was getting her diplomate in nutrition to be her assistant. And then she let me work on her patients in between classes, which was hardly anyone gets that opportunity. And I noticed right away one thing, and this seriously struck me as a life-changing moment. It might have taken a few customers, but at some point, I realized every single person coming in the office had already seen 5 or 10 or more practitioners already and weren't better yet. Now, when you're trained in law, you become an advocate. I was advocating for the environment. Now I'm advocating for people. And I'm saying, well, that's a ripoff. It's a ripoff. What do you mean you've been to 10 practitioners and you're not better yet? You still have most of your original complaints. I said, you know what? I'm going to be the last person you need to see. Which was laughable because I had no medical training. I didn't know what was going on. I was just going through a nutrition program. But at one of our lectures, I learned about lab work. And immediately that Monday, I started ordering labs for clients under the doctors who worked in this clinic. And I just went nuts. I, like you, I geeked out. I ran thousands of labs on thousands of people. I was just, anyone that would let me run a lab, I was running a lab. And I didn't know what I was doing at first, but I was doing a lot of it. And I started having some, all of a sudden, sort of miracles occur. I could tell you some really good stories. Originally, what kept me going, like, wow. And boy, if you just look for the cause, whoa, imagine what might happen. And at first, I was just getting lucky. But I started after all those years and thousands of people and thousands to recognize patterns. And you do have some training and post-grad ability to organize things. And so I organized a system of investigation that was giving us repeatedly consistent, solid results of what the person really needed to work on, regardless of what their problem was. You know, like they would, whether it was PCOS or it was, you know, fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue or irritable bowel or, you know, you name a problem, especially the hormones. And I specialized actually for a while in hormones and bone density. But then, yeah, it was really interesting period. I had my own bone density testing machine. But anyway, all this was in a long period of time where I recognized these patterns. And then here's the other beauty of this. Not only had I figured out a system of what's really wrong, but how do I apply the general principles of health building to fix, so the person can fix it themselves? You know, just like I wanted to have my health and destiny be in my own hands, I truly believe, again, it's that advocate mentality that, you know, your health belongs in your hands, Mrs. Smith, not your doctors, or not your chiropractors even, or not even me. It belongs in your hands. So I was developing systems of lifestyle medicine, of what you should be doing at home, in between visits. You know, like a person coming in for chiropractic, I'd say, it's not coming in this office that's going to help you much. It's going to help you, but it's what you do between visits. And so I became the sort of specialist in what you do between visits until, guess what? You don't need them anymore. So that took me right up to that 10 years of that. And so in 2008 is when I started teaching, and I've never looked back. You know, I now brick and mortar businesses are kind of shut down anyway. And I'd been doing distance coaching for a lot of years. And so that's a bit about my background.
Well, I love a few things that you said, and I couldn't agree with you more when you said functional, because what a lot of doctors do is they just look at the lab range, which is really the pathological range. And so nothing is done until it's bad enough, ultimately. So when you fall outside of that lab range, that's when they start talking about, okay, maybe we can give you this medication. Maybe we can supplement with this hormone. Maybe you should XYZ. But the functional range is a far smaller range that everybody should be in. And I think what most doctors don't even understand, and they definitely don't explain it to their clients, is the lab ranges are going to differ based on, one, the lab, and two, the state, because they're literally the ranges that they're seeing within that demographic. And so, you know, if you have lab work done in California and then you move to Mississippi, your ranges or your numbers could be very different. You might be out of range in California, but you could be in range in Mississippi. And so those doctors will do very different things, even though you have the exact same symptoms. And then you brought up a very good point about patterns. Oh my gosh, do you mind touching on a little bit about patterns? Because that is something that it takes somebody who is a master to be able to teach other people to look for patterns to determine the underlying issue, because it's not just simply like this lab marker means this. It's like, okay, this lab marker plus this lab marker plus this lab marker could indicate this. So do you mind diving into that just a smidge?
Yeah, it's actually very simple, you know, because when I started first testing, I was mostly testing women's hormones. I was bones and hormones. I actually had a website called Bones and Hormones. And so I was dealing with a certain, you know, 45 to 55, 60-year-old women concerned about their bones. Because back at the turn of the century, most women were just on the horse estrogen. You know, that's what they just did. You just went on your horse estrogen, and that's how you saved your bones. You know, and it actually does help with the bones. But then a big study came out in 2001 that said, oh no, you can't take that hormone anymore. It's causing heart disease and all these things, right? Bad about it. So people are left not knowing what to do. that's when bioidentical hormones started getting very popular. But they didn't change their mentality enough. And so what I learned to do was start testing. And now we call it screening because we have these broad, ways of screening people in a very inexpensive way. You still have to give us some saliva, urine, blood, or stool, whatever it might be. But so I noticed that all these women with hormone issues and bone issues, things like that, you start trying to work on that one thing, and you might even improve one thing, but they still have their other health problems. They still have the low energy or the fatigue or the brain fog or the overweight, or you can't lose weight, or they're cold and chilly, or they're depressed, or you name the kind of thing, headaches, asthma, and all this stuff. So I said, well, there's got to be more than just hormone testing. And I started looking at metabolic issues. By the way, I'm going to return, and then so I got into the immune system. And then I got into the digestive biological markers. And then I got into the detoxification. Well, it's their liver's called. Then I realized that everyone there are healing opportunities. We call it upstream, and that are resulting in symptoms downstream. And so if you just look at the symptoms, and you might make the mistake. I think even functional medicine practitioners are saying, well, that sounds like thyroid, or that sounds like a parasite, or that sounds like SIBO, or some other thing. And they run a test for that thing, and God forbid they find it, because then they pat themselves in the back and say, I found your problem, it's a parasite, or I found your problem, it's you have low thyroid output. And they're still not going up and looking at all the other healing opportunities that are contributing to that condition that results in the symptoms. So they're working too close to the cluster of symptoms, and congratulating themselves a little bit too much, methinks. And so I learned as a non-physician to just not do that. Do not get into diagnosis and treatment of specific things. Even though I started
diagnosis doesn't matter. The diagnosis really doesn't matter until you know what's causing it. So I love that you said that. That's so true.
That's why you had me on your show.
Yeah.
Because we speak the same language, and we know that the truth is that symptoms don't matter. The diagnosis of the immediate diagnosis probably doesn't matter much either, unless it's a really emergent condition like a tumor, or that matters. But otherwise, these are just labels on a group of symptoms to be managed. And you never really fix anything. So we learned to, that's, again, talk about patterns. And the patterns were the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous system balance. The parasympathetic and sympathetic have to be in balance. So that spells HIDDEN. That's the pattern. And I didn't, discover it in exactly that order. But by the time I started, after a few years, looking at what I was teaching people in the office, I was the chief educator. It just seemed to be up. Just the order just appeared to me one day, like in Scrabble. You get all the letters. Hey, that spells hidden. What do you know? And,
so, do you mind saying exactly what hidden stands for, just so that my listeners can follow?
Yeah, we look upstream for imbalances or dysfunctions or contributors to metabolic chaos, I call it, within the hormones. So we check hormones and the immune system. There are people with very lowered immune system, which was evident last year when so many people were affected so negatively by the COVID virus. People with really good immune systems didn't have any problems, or very few. Right. So hormones, immune. Then digestion. There's biological markers that tell us if you are breaking down, absorbing food very well. So hormone, immune, digestion. The next detoxification, like there's it's kind of easy to collect liver function markers. It's your main detoxifying organ. There are others, the kidneys, the lymph, the skin, and so on. The lungs are detoxifiers, and the colon is a detoxifier. But if you measure liver, so hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification. Now, actually, just those are the first four that I recognized, and we were really doing well. But when I started adding in energy production, which is the E. Now that means eating right so that your cells produce energy at the right rate, quality, and quantity to do their job well. Do you think that any of your cells need to be taught what their job is?
No.
Now, cells have an innate intelligence, and that, by the way, we work a lot with coaching up that innate intelligence in every cell, every tissue, every organ, every system, in the entire organism. Our job as health coaches is to coach up function. So that's efficiency, including the energy production on a cellular level. And it's really quite simple. And the last one is, I just use N for nervous system, but it really is the autonomic nervous system, which is the sympathetic and parasympathetic. And that can be measured, and that can be, and a lot of times you just know if you're overly sympathetic, you have anxiety, you have worries, you're nervous, you like a little squirrel and you hide things in closets or something. I don't know.
High stress. High stress. Yep. And I actually find, and I'm sure you're finding this more often, the nervous system, we're functioning more from a sympathetic state versus parasympathetic. We're constantly in that fight or flight due to all of our stressors, whereas our parasympathetics is really our digest, our rest. And that's where our body is able to produce all of our hormones and absorb the nutrients that we're eating. And I'm finding more and more people are massively shifted over into that sympathetic state. So I'm so glad that you incorporated all of those, because that's literally how our body functions.
It's true. Well, it's an important pattern to be aware of, and there are other factors involved. There are, again, emergent conditions. People get in car accidents. Well, that's got nothing to do with that. Now you're in trouble, physiologically, or you could be really weak, and you also could have a lot of success rates for us are dependent upon hidden complexities in the mind and emotions of the person we're working with, so that could come under stress reduction. But the idea of investigating, there are other things you could look at. The main idea, though, is that, matter of fact, we could query the audience. We can't see you right now, but how many of you have been told by a doctor or know someone who's been told by a doctor nothing's wrong with you, that your blood work,
every single listener can say they know one person or themselves.
Like your blood work looks normal. Here's your chill pill. Just like I swear I have stories unbelievable from the clinic, and then all these years of teaching. But so that's where things usually start, the cycle of trial and error, I call it. But then there's natural, but natural. Naturopaths and functional medicine doctors, things that work more with the body and these things, they still are trained by that other mentality of looking for something out of range, something where the paper says we need to correct this. And we really try to avoid that. Although we look at a lot of test results, we always interpret them unique to that individual. Like, whose test results are these? That's what the most important question is. I spent 10 years as a clinical advisor for a lab. Once I started teaching, and it was just a few hours a week, just something to do that's creative and interesting and help keep me out of trouble and stuff. But
maybe that's what I need to do.
Yeah, you could. I mean, but I had the most common sense approach. When physicians would call in to get support on a laboratory test result, they just love my explanation of, who's this person? Like, it depends. Is this Mrs. Smith or Mr. Jones? And all these other factors. Then you can interpret those test results. So that's what's missing. And also, we don't just say, it sounds like thyroid, and check your thyroid. We have a battery of tests that covers HIDDEN, and we run them on every person. And that's just our program. And yes, it is an investment in some lab work and some consultation time and things like that. But it's the best investment you could possibly make, because it has to do with your health. And you can't be happy if you're not healthy, right?
100%. I love that, because I have women come in all the time who go, something's wrong. I don't feel right. I know something's wrong. My doctor keeps telling me everything's okay. I feel like I have a thyroid problem because Dr. Google lists all the symptoms I have. And I go, okay, you might, or there might be a problem with your pituitary. It might be an adrenal problem. It might be a gut problem. It might be a combination of those. So it's so important to investigate everything Because like you said, if you just chase symptoms, you really could be missing the actual root cause, which then means you feel better for a little while, but you never resolve the issue. It comes back, or you don't ever feel 100%. And that's what I end up seeing a lot. So much like you, I'm typically like, number 5, 6, 7th doctor that they've gone to by this point, and they're very skeptical because it's like, well, I've seen all these other doctors. I'm just unique. I'm just broken, or I'm a complicated case. How many times have you heard those descriptors?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the most common words in medicine is the term idiopathic. Mm-hmm. What that means is they don't know. So if you say to a physician if you show up with, let's say, you're tired, you're fatigued, you can't lose those last few pounds, your extremities might be cold or even numb, you can have constipation almost for sure, your hair's thinning, and you got a little brain fog, and you're, sad, so that sounds like thyroid. And people with low thyroid, that's how they present. That's the cluster of symptoms that points to thyroid. So then they test your thyroid and they say, yep, found your problem. It's low thyroid. You're hypothyroid. Mm-hmm. Here's your medication. And you'll come back in 3 months. We'll adjust it until we get it right where we get the paper right where we want it. Mm-hmm. And so that's, to me, treating the paper. It's saying, we got to get this number up here. Now that's their standard of care. That's what they're supposed to do. And they're not doing anything wrong. They're just not doing it. They're not serving all the needs of that person. Doctors serve needs. Health coaches serve needs. If we focus on the needs, we say that well, that's good. You maybe even relieve a few symptoms that way, but you're not figuring out why you have the hypothyroidism. I can give you 11 reasons and times 7. Whatever that is. I mean, it's miraculous how many things lead to hypothyroidism, and nothing's wrong with your thyroid. It's actually just responding appropriately to the type of stress and type of life that you have. Thyroid actually supposed to slow down and not burn up all your energy, not metabolize all your energies when you're under stress. It's hibernating on purpose. Mm-hmm. So you can just keep throwing your synthetic T4 and a little T3 at it sometimes, and you can even eat a few things that are high in tyrosine, add some iodine, whatever. You can do natural, but they're both treating basically the symptom or the cluster syndrome. They're not going for what's upstairs or upstream. And again, with HIDDEN, you're going to cover so much ground. We're going to get a whole constellation of healing opportunities. And then the beauty is work on them all at the same time with lifestyle medicine, not just take a supplement. And not just, one food. Those are important, but they fit into a bigger picture where you're really eating correct for you as a unique individual. Your genetics meet all your genetic requirements that they need for food. Hell, you're made of food, and you can't do anything if you don't eat. So then rest, and not just sleep. You need very deep sleep, and you need. But you can rest at other times of the day. And you got to think about rest. It's like, well, what am I resting? Is it just my brain? Is it just my body? Or is it my emotions too? And so
all of them.
It's all of that in rest. They're experts on rest, and thank God. Mine is more on the physiological side. I want to make sure the brain cells are contracting, and you got the spinal fluid flowing through and cleaning up the plaque in the brain. I'm really into the detox advantages and the sort of mind clearing that sleep does. But there's other ways to rest. Sometimes I have to rest in the day. After 3 or 4 interviews in a row, I got to take a break, go outside, and that's in a sense a rest, from what I was doing. So diet, rest, and the E in dress. This is our dress for health success. Once we've discovered all the hidden constellation of healing opportunities, we apply the principles in the dress program, which is your diet, uniquely customized, your rest, true rest, and then your exercise. Some people actually over exercise. I had a lady once, I told her to exercise more, and this is way back, before I sort of figured it all out together. and then I asked her, in a few days, like maybe a week follow up. We don't wait 3 months to follow up with our clients. We it's a week, and we're going to be talking, so we can coach up the function and the lifestyle and the things that we want to do. Very supportive and loving relationship, a partnership really, where I said to her, this one lady, well, how are you doing? She goes, well, I think I'm doing better, but I'm really tired in the afternoons. And I said, really? That's a surprise. You know, let's look at what you're doing, your diet. Yeah, you're following that rest. Yeah, you're following exercise. She goes, oh yeah, I work out for 4 hours every morning now. And I said, well, whoa, gee, did you think it has something to do with being tired in the afternoon? You know, like, so even exercise has to be really specific and customized for a person. My 90-year-old mother, God bless her, still exercises 3 times a week, but she's not going to the gym pounding weights, you know. So everybody's different. So you have diet, rest, exercise, and then you have 2 S's in the dress for health success. The first one is huge because it's stress reduction. You can say stress management if you want, but it's the idea that, man, there's so many stressors on the planet. Remember where I started with the environmental stressors that are killing birds, bees, trees, and air and water, and you know, and then what's it doing to people? And so you got the environmental stuff. You have the mental, emotional stuff. You have your job. You have your relationships. You have your kids. You have whatever's going on.
You have the politics. You have everything.
Yeah. First rule is turn the TV off. That's a big stress.
Thank you. Stop listening to the news for hours a day, especially before bed, because that's going to completely mess up your rest.
You know, the only place you can find consistently good news is in the sports section, you know, like, because go team, you know, like somebody's winning somewhere. Let me get behind that, you know, like, you know, Tom Brady, of course, playing this weekend coming up should be a pretty amazing thing.
I'm super excited for him because I'm sure you can appreciate the lifestyle and everything that he puts into himself so that he can continue to play at that level at 43. Like, I appreciate everything that he stands for from a lifestyle standpoint. So
yes, so you get the point. You know, exercises can be different, but this idea of stress reduction that's really huge, and so it could be a lot of things. There's also the hidden stressors inside. Your hormones are out of balance. You know, it kind of ties into the testing. Your digestive system isn't working. Your immune system isn't working. You have an overgrowth of bacteria, fungus, virus, parasites. You could have food sensitivities. There's lots of ways you could go in stress reduction, and you could spend your whole career. You spend just a whole show just on that one topic. And then the last S, of course, is supplementation. And I truly believe in it. I take my stuff. I have stuff on my desk. I have things in the cupboard. There's all kinds of ways to do supplements. this is not coffee. This is actually a stress reducing ceremonial cacao drink here that I have. And I just sort of do my thing here and try to reduce stress in every way I can. But supplements are one of those things that can help. We have the 4 S's of supplementation are, first of all, it substitutes for what's missing in food. Food kind of sucks in the quality. It doesn't have the nutrients in it that it used to have. Like the food that I ate out of my grandfather's garden is not what you're getting in the grocery store. So substitution. You have support for certain functions for a time being. This would be sort of temporary supplementation for, you know, to support your liver, to support your digestion, to support something, your adrenals, your hormones. The third S would be stimulation, like for instance, of the immune system. We know that right now, if you're subject to COVID, if you're around people and things like that, you should probably be taking a little bit extra vitamin D, very common.
Everyone should be taking vitamin D, especially in the winter.
You know, I mean, I live in Southern California where it's sunny most of the time. I get lots of outdoor time. So I think my vitamin D runs a little higher. And you can measure it easily, and it does. But I still take my vitamin D. And so vitamin C is a tremendous antioxidant. There's something called N-acetyl cysteine. It's NAC. NAC. So your vitamin C, your vitamin D, your NAC, your selenium, so a really important mineral. And then you have your quercetin. So, and then zinc. Don't forget zinc.
I was going to say, we can't forget zinc and its crazy power on the immune system.
So we now are using supplements for substitution of what's missing in food. support of general systems or organs and things like that, stimulation of when we want to boost something, and then of course self-treatment. There's actually a lot of botanical products that people can use to sort of self-treat their some infection or something like that. And so this is all
What
done.
would be an example of that, just so that I'm following you on the same page? Like, are you talking like
there are antimicrobials, antiparasitics that have been used for thousands of years. Thousands of years. People know when they're, get scratchy bum that they need to do an anti-parasite treatment or something. Just whatever. You could have skin things. There's lots of indications, and for centuries, millennia, people have been using botanicals for self-treatment of unwanted critters is a good example. But there's, skin and lots of things. So it's just another application of supplements that are over the counter. Now, we don't deal in prescription medication unless it's really, really necessary. And I have to say this, and God bless our doctors, there are certain, like, we make all these observations about hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, and so on. And we can capitalize on those as long as there's time, as long as that person will follow our suggestions and live that way. And then we can correct course as we go here and there. There's always going to be a twist and a turn. And we've adapted, and we get good at that. We get good at being coaches. And, but if you have an emergent condition where the downward spiral is happening really fast, there's no time to capitalize on those observations, and therefore you need medicine. If you come off a plane from West Africa and your temperature is 105 and you're bleeding from your eyeballs, you don't call your nutritionist. You go get attendant care, heroic care, and you get your life saved. I have a good friend, Dr. Tom O'Brien, and he says it's like you're drowning. Well, the doctor throws you life preserver, and you get it on, and it saves your life, and you get over to the edge of the pool, and the doctor says, "Boy, I sure did a good job," and he did. But now you're ours. Now you're in our backyard. Now we make sure you never end up back in the pool, in the deep end again, with needing a life preserver, to the best of our ability and your genetics and these other reasonable things we can expect from. It's really behavior medicine, and I use the word medicine loosely.
I feel you, because whenever somebody asks me what type of doctor am I, I'm a certified functional medicine practitioner, but I don't like that term because I don't practice any component of medicine. So I always say that I'm a functional, health practitioner. I'm a functional wellness practitioner. I look for why you feel the way that you do. And you said something really important. I would love for you to collaborate talk a little bit more about it, on how your goal is to get people to do the things in between visits so that they can be self-reliant. I absolutely love that, because that is 100% what I preach all the time is, let's get you out of the position you're in. You need me for this period of time. But my goal is to teach you how to never get back into that situation and live a fulfilling, healthy, wonderful life based on all the decisions, choices, lifestyles that you continue to pursue from that point on.
So the question is, how do you navigate?
Why is that important? Why is that important for people to understand that the solution isn't just in a pill?
Well, I think that the general idea is that the more self-aware we become, we know that we're not our bodies. We're somewhere in the body, and we're not even our minds. That's just also an accumulation of information that you've been exposed to. But there's something else there, a consciousness, and that's the real you. And that to have that be a joyful experience, with the glimpses of that you get, you need to be healthy. You can't have aches and pains and diarrhea. You just have to be healthy in order to get to these higher levels of consciousness. And that's what I find the planet is really screaming out for, is more glimpses of the collective consciousness, and that we are all, part of that. And that's what's missing. Now, you probably didn't know I was going to go there, but
I
that's my
love that you
answer.
did, though.
I mean, really, health is critical. So my point was that you are responsible for that, no one else. And you create your body by your habits. You've created it. Now, it might have been a lot of other outside influences, your parents and just advertising, and you like cheeseburgers, but those are things you can realize are not you, they're outside of you, and that this body you have accumulated is a result of all of that stuff that you basically have put into it and been exposed to. Again, the environment plays into it, things like that. But it's the same thing with your mind. It's just an accumulation of information and data and what you've been exposed to, experiences, for sure, what you were told when you're little, and then what your teachers told, and then just what you saw on TV and what happened between you and your friends. And that's just a bunch of emotional, just as much garbage as what the crap you've put in your body and whatever that gave you. So the idea of being conscious of another dimension or energy dimension, if you will, is really important to me. And I don't really specialize or work with clients in the area, but I'm always observing how conscious they are of their own responsibility in the whole process. And it's why I teach them to be self-reliant, not to depend on me. We could go back to when I said, I want to be in control of my own destiny. And I told the first few clients I ever had 22 years ago, you want to be in control of your destiny, not why are you relying on these guys, And so here we are 22 years later, same thing. I may have evolved slightly, since then.
I'm sure you have, because good practitioners continuously grow and expand and, tweak what they're doing so that they can best serve those in front of them. And it definitely appears that that's something that you have taken to heart. So I appreciate the information, the knowledge that you're sharing with your clients, but also with other practitioners and teaching them how to do the same thing, because we need more practitioners thinking from a higher level versus symptomatic control. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, I've learned, I have grown some. I mean, I was pretty much like every other American kid in his 20s, a hedonist, I mean, pleasure was everything. Now I've learned that, sometimes delaying that, striving and sacrificing sometimes pays off much, much more than just the next pleasurable moment, whether it be eating a cheeseburger, which I haven't had since probably 1899. I haven't had a fast food anything in all those years. I don't eat bread, and I just sort of, in other levels, it's the same thing. So that puts me in a better position to help others when you're walking the talk. I am not perfect. I don't know anyone at the top of the health stairs, right? You're in a stairway, right? We're all in this sort of walk up the stairs, and there's people who have a lot more steps to go than I do because they're train wrecks, pardon the expression. But there's people who are in better shape than me too, but I still don't know anyone at the top. So we're all on a path or journey.
We're all on our own discovery, our own path. And it's important for us to follow our intuition as to what we need to do to best serve us. So if you don't mind, I'd like to take it back to labs just for a second.
Okay.
And if you can discuss how often, because this is a question I get all the time, how often should I be getting lab testing? How often do I have to do that thorough set of laboratory work? Because for some people, it's really hard to wrap their brain around it, because most of the time their doctors are like, oh, just once a year, we'll do a really basic panel and we'll do it again next year kind of thing. So what are your thoughts on the frequency of labs?
Obviously it's an individual thing. Everyone's different. Everyone has a different number of steps that they're trying to climb. So at first it might be more frequent, but then eventually, hopefully you get into a healthy, happy state. And it's just, when something occurs, there is some virulent things out there that can kick your butt. And there's other things that play into why you might all of a sudden have a low immune system, and get whacked by something. But otherwise, more frequent at first, less frequent later. I happen to be in a position where every lab company out there wants to be, they want me to be a customer, because I have 3,000 practitioners that I could influence. So I'm always telling them, oh, go ahead, send me your labs, and send me 3. So my staff and I have 25 staff, but I have an R&D team, and so we all run the labs on ourselves. We see if they're useful. Some are useless. They're not giving us any insights that we didn't already have. But some, as technology increases, they start getting really cool. Like, wow, that's deep. That's going pretty far upstream. And we nerd out on those kind of things. But initially, I would just say our comprehensive intake would be 5 labs. The HIDDEN, that's 6 things, but 5 labs can cover it all, and some questionnaires, of course. And then we might, after working with you, as a health coach, we only ask people to sign up for 90 days. And that's from the time we get your lab results back. So it might take you 3 weeks to get some labs back. Then we have we do our assessments and interpretations and clinical correlation and things that we make sure we're working with the individual, including all of their history and different things. And then we say, well, let's do the DRESS protocol. Here's a customized DRESS. Let's do that for 90 days and see what shakes out. And we usually start with really good, solid onboarding, onboard mostly people who are positive, that where they're not the problem. And remember, I said some things are wrapped up in the complexities of the mind and emotions, and that can slow you down. But so at 90 days, are we going to retest anything? Maybe one thing, but at 180 days in 6 months, if you re-up for another program, another step, and most people are doing something. We really want to teach you how to do it yourself. Like, I could teach you everything I know in 90 days, but people still want that coaching and that continuous support. And we're basically, it's like sailing a boat. There's no power boating to the end of that 90 days. Oh, I'm going to really rip that. No, you're going to sail like everyone else. There's wind in the sails. There's waves on the hull. There's currents under the water. Everyone has different size, sails and keels and things like that, and ability to maneuver and that. So we're gonna zigzag a little bit here, and that could involve some retesting to answer your question.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought up the fact that healing and change doesn't just happen in an upward linear fashion. I wish it did for everybody, because one, results would be quicker, people would be happier. But healing happens in this almost more like a roller coaster kind of motion based on what's happening. And I always explain it to people. Every layer you peel off, it's like layers to an onion, and you got to get through all of the layers in order to truly resolve whatever's causing the issue. So I love that you brought up the point of it's going to take some time, but if you steer the course, you do what you're told, you make the changes, you won't be disappointed.
It's really true. And I'm very happy to hear you saying that, Caitlin, because it is like sailing a ship. You have to tack and come about and kind of zigzag depending on the conditions. Another way to look at it, I was told that pilots are off course. Airplane pilots are off course up to 90% of the time. They're just always correcting course. When you leave New York, headed for San Diego, where I live, they don't fly in a straight line. They want to, and that's the goal, but they're being blown off course every moment. The minute, imagine if you're a pilot and you take your eyes off the road, you're like, oh, hey, look at that cloud over there, man. Is that cool? Look, the sunset. Next thing you know, you're headed that way,
Yep.
So you're going to be off course a lot of the time. That's part of the patience, and the courage and the
learning.
Yeah,
You're learning to live a different lifestyle.
And being okay with it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And women, unfortunately, we take longer. We have more complex hormonal changes and shifts. And so understanding that, if you and your significant other, who's a male counterpart, start the same thing, your spouse may see changes quicker and sooner than you, but that doesn't mean that you should get frustrated and angry and just quit and say this doesn't work. It's just going to take longer because of those hormones and those different intricacies that we have compared to men. Not saying that men aren't their own set of complication, but we just have another level of, well, I guess complication to deal with those hormone changes. So understand that it does take time, and it's okay though. It's okay.
It is totally okay. As long as you're making progress.
Absolutely.
You know, yeah, like if there's no wind in your sails, you know, you gotta, that you take action, you do things. You can always do something. There's always something to do. And a good health coach will have a lot of really good training in things like positive psychology or neuro-linguistic programming, with, but also just being there and being present for someone, and being creative is very useful, you know, and of course the more experience the better too. There's just nothing like that, but having the principles to fall back on are important, and just keep chugging. You have to just keep plugging.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things is know that there can be a different outcome. You just have to find the right person to help you get to that different outcome. So, you know, going through 5, 6, 7 practitioners, it's okay to get frustrated. It's okay to be discouraged, but don't give up. You just have to find the right person to work with. And so, you know,
people.
Pardon? Or people. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a collaborative thing.
Right. I have a personal trainer come out to the house twice a week. So I have a little gym, and you know, but I still go to my, I have a DO I go to, because I have a lot of owies from having a very well-used body, you know, just sports injuries, mostly motorcycle and things. So I have a team. You know, I like IV treatments, you know, for anti-aging stuff. So you just sort of develop this, I guess it's a team. Yeah.
100%. I don't think one person has all the answers, because you cannot be an expert at everything. That is like a jack of all trades.
Yeah.
An expert, what do they call it?
It's a jack of all trades and master of none.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, it's like a master of nothing, but yeah. So you got to find the people that are going to best support all aspects of you. I work with energy healers. I work with massage therapists. I go to my chiropractor, you know, like I have a team behind me to help support me and my health at the best level that I possibly can. So before I have you, you know, tell my viewers where they can find you, where they can get more information, I like to ask just a few fun questions. Don't think too hard about it. Yep. We're putting you under the spotlight. What is your favorite beverage?
Oh man, I have water on my thing. I love good, clean, fresh or filtered water. And I'm right now drinking a ceremonial cacao drink. If you thought it was on coffee, no. So what does it say? I'm a rhinoceros. Identify. Pardon me?
What brand do you drink?
Well, it's actually this one.
K-A-K-A.
It's really pure. It's really good. It's got all the ingredients that are supposed to be in there. So, but you know, I like a good wine sometimes. Water, wine. I don't drink much else. I do drink a little coffee. You know, nothing's wrong with that if you don't overdo it.
Yep.
And if you're otherwise healthy, you know, there's some people who probably shouldn't.
Well, and the quality makes a big difference too.
Yes. Yes, there's all of that.
So what is your favorite meal? So you said you haven't had fast food or a cheeseburger in 20 something years. What is your favorite meal?
You know, oh my goodness. I guess my mom's roast beef, you know, or her Thanksgiving turkey. Or if I really had to say, you know, I grew up on roast beef and Yorkshire pudding, and turkey. And then the day after Turkey Day, she used to make this turkey. She called it turkey chow mein. It was just the leftover turkey and a bunch of stuff, and it was so delicious, man. She used to laugh at me because I would sit there and hum while I was eating. I like to eat, but
that means you're enjoying it. You're thoroughly taking it in.
yeah, it's
which
like
is important.
She knew she did well if Reed was humming while he was eating, just kind of mumbling, really, But no, I like a good steak. I love salad. I love salad to death. So I eat my share of raw. I like asparagus. Anything that's meat and vegetables put together, I can eat. I love to go out for sushi. I mean, gosh, you're talking about food.
You're a food guy. You like your food. Nothing wrong with that. I like mine as well.
Yeah.
What is your favorite pick-me-up song? So if you want to get pumped up, motivated for a good day, make you dance, what is that song?
Oh man. Well, I'm actually a blues guy, I just walk in and I say, "Hey Alexa, play some blues." And, whatever comes on, I love the rhythm, of a good rhythm and blues and that kind of a thing. I like some rock and roll. There's one song, you can get it on the internet. I should put it in the show notes here or something like that. Stand By Me.
Oh yeah.
Stand By Me is a really good pick me up. I like some hymns. I listen to Be Thou My Vision 2-3 times a week. I sing it, to myself in the hallway where it echoes.
Nice.
And stuff like that. So yeah, music is beautiful.
You like music, you like food, you like drinks, you're just a lover of life.
It's called Renaissance Man.
What is the last question? What is on your nightside table?
Well, I have books, mostly books, and a lamp. Sometimes a candle or a scent thing. Maybe some essential oils. Unfortunately, my cell phone usually ends up there charging, but I do sometimes, if I wake up, I'll listen to something very soothing at night to put me back to sleep, or I'll just get up. I got up at 3 this morning, and I sent an email to someone in the East Coast, and he goes, it's 6 o'clock here. What the hell are you doing up at 3? I go, well, I went to bed at 8 o'clock, so I do go to bed real early. But that's what's on my nightstand right now. Maybe some crystals on the other one.
Yep.
Yeah, I actually collect big, large, rough, chunky. We call them chunky crystals.
You and I would have a great time going out to eat and talking crystals. I'm the same thing. I love them.
Let's go shopping. Let's go shopping. We'll have lunch. We'll go to the gem fairs here in California are great,
Awesome. Let's plan it. I'm there. All right. So where can my listeners find you? What is the best way to find more about Reed Davis and or the FDN program?
Yeah, well, we have a special URL for your listeners. It's FDN Thrive, FDN THRIVE, FDNthrive.show/women wellness in honor of this podcast.
Well, thank you. And women, as always, I will put that in the show notes so that you can just go ahead and click it and follow up with Reed Davis. Or if this is a direction you're like, oh my gosh, I have a calling to work with people and I would love to understand labs better, definitely look into the FDN program. They do some amazing things. And like I said, if I had known back in 2005 when I started this journey, I may have gone a different route had I have known and had this have been an option for me. So again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for doing what you do. You're truly making a difference, helping other practitioners get to the level of master, we'll say, since we're not a jack of all trades, we're a master of one, and keep doing what you do.
Thanks. It seems to you. You're doing fantastic work, and I support you 100%.
Thank you. All right, ladies, I will see you next week on another episode of Women and Wellness. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Women in Wellness as much as I did. If you did, please leave a review and a rating so that others can also benefit from the information being shared. Make sure to subscribe as new content is released on Women in Wellness Wednesdays. And if you want to connect with us, go online to womeninwellness.com. That's women, the letter N, wellness.com. I look forward to seeing you next time.